Hey guys, this is Justin from the Survivor Review, and this is our second video in our review of the Batman films. The second film in the series, Batman Returns. This is a more controversial film. It's a lot of people, I've heard a lot of negative, I've heard a lot of positive, I've heard a lot of mixed. But now we get to see what I think. Batman Returns. The plot mainly revolves around the Penguin, who is like a deformed, like kind of half penguin, half like child, half human. And when he was a baby, his parents threw him into a sewer, and then he grows up to become Danny Devito, and as the Penguin. And then he tries to take over Gotham, like he pulls this whole scheme where he's really just a nice guy. He's really just misunderstood. And so he even runs for mayor. And eventually it turns out that he's really just a bad guy who wants to just take over Gotham because he's mad at how they were treating him. And then there's also the story of Selina Kyle, who was just like a lonely secretary, like didn't have that much friends, was like an awkward like outcast. And then after getting killed by the other villain we have, Max Schreck, to get to in a second, she becomes Catwoman and tries to get revenge on him. And then we have Max Schreck, who's a businessman who runs the power plants. And he's done a lot of like bad things to keep stuff going and stuff like that, which is how Penguin gets him to help him out by saying like, "Oh, I'll reveal all this bad stuff about you." And I know what you're thinking. Where's Batman in all this? See, this movie doesn't really focus on Batman. He's sort of just kind of there. That's one of the problems. Is that, whereas the first film, the movie was still about Batman, but kind of focused a little bit on the Joker a little bit more. This one more just focuses on the villains. And like, in the first 30 minutes, I was actually checking this out. I was watching the movie. In the first 6 minutes, Batman only appears once, and Bruce Wayne only appears once. And they don't even they only have like one line. And the movie mostly focuses on that stuff that. But at least the villain stuff was actually pretty interesting, which is where we'll get to the performances. Michael Keaton, although he doesn't have as much to do, and like I said, it's not the focus, he still gives a great performance. Talks a little more as Batman, it's cool, but like I still love him as Batman. I don't like the costume as much. I do kind of like the more like realistic like muscle tones. I don't like the '89 costume and like the fake kind of like, I don't know what to call it, like kind of the new one, but I don't care. It still looks good. I just don't like it as much. Danny DeVito, I think he steals the show as the Penguin. I mean, he's just creepy and just dirty and just whenever he's on screen, like you keep your eyes on him because the makeup effects and it's done so well. Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman was pretty good also. We'll get to those problems in a minute. And Christopher Walken, he's Christopher Walken. He played Max Schreck, and he's Christopher Walken. And now I get to some of the problems for the movie. I don't think this is a perfect movie. By no means. It's not up there with the first film, but I still think it has its moments. But let's go through some of the problems. Selina Kyle's backstory, I don't get it. She falls out of a 3-story building and then gets resurrected by cats. And now she wants to get revenge on Max Schreck, but then she fights off a thug for some reason. It's just her motivations don't really make sense. I understand the whole revenge thing, but did that really make her want to dress up like a cat and then fight a little bit of crime and then try to fight Batman and then join the Penguin? It felt a little weird. It didn't fit. Would have made more sense if you were just a cat burglar, like in the comics and all the stuff. So that was a little weird. There's a little I feel there's a little too much like sexual innuendo and stuff like that in the movie. It just doesn't work in this kind of movie. Like that's one of the like McDonald's, the whole story. McDonald's had the promotion of like the toys and everything pulled because the parents were petitioning the movie's not for kids. And this one, it really isn't. Yeah, it has some like action scenes, some really cheesy lines sometimes, but it's not. It's like those scenes are always just weird. Like mostly the penguin, all the stuff the penguin is. He's a pretty big pervert in the movie. So he has a lot of weird lines. It just doesn't work at watching it. And you're just like, is that necessary for this movie? And it's weird. The movie is very much a Tim Burton movie. He gets full reign on this thing because of like the success of the first film. So like it does get a little too Tim Burton-ish, I will say. As much as like that one, the first one's kind of a lot of a Tim Burton movie, but it still kind of felt a little bit like a Batman movie. This one kind of feels like a Tim Burton movie with Batman and the Penguin and Catwoman. So that's a little strange. And what I find is that even though the same same production crew, same director, obviously, when they're all back, and the movie actually doesn't completely feel like the first film. It still feels different. That is because of not bringing back some main characters, which would have made much more sense to have them back. Like they just like brush off Vicky Vale, and it's like, oh yeah, she could take him being Batman, and that left. Like I really doubt that in the first film, like the way she acted and everything. I really doubt that she would just be like, oh, I can't take you being Batman, and they'd just break up. Like that, I thought was a little stupid. I thought it was kind of like a cheap way to just throw in a new love interest, and I didn't like that. I do like though when that they do mention Alfred letting Vicky Vale into the Batcave. That was a funny scene where Alfred's all talking about like, oh, so we have to make this place more secure or something like that, and Bruce is just like, who's the one that let Vicky Vale into the Batcave? And that part was funny because that was a little weirder part that didn't really work in the first film. Like that they brought that up, but see when the one thing about the movie is that the second half is where the movie really gets going. The first half is a little convoluted. We're getting all the backstories through and everything, but once like that's all done and like all the motivations are set, no matter how weird they are, the second half of the movie picks up and gets really enjoyable, and you kind of like you tend to ignore the problems. Like this is about the time where Catwoman joins up with Penguin, and that's when you kind of go, oh, it kind of makes sense because she was just like got attacked by Batman. He could feed them away, so I guess that makes a little sense. So you buy it, and the action is pretty good. It's fun a lot of times. So that's where the second half is. I think the second act is much better. But like I was sitting there enjoying it the whole time, not kind of like looking around like I kind of was the first part because it just didn't work as much. But the ending is the ending is a little goofy with penguins marching through Gotham. They'll blow it up and stuff. That was a little weird. And spoiler alert, in case you're really worried, the death of Max Shrek is really just goofy and kind of comical, and just it doesn't work for the movie. You look at it and you're just like, what? It doesn't look right. It doesn't match this, which I found weird. And some people say the movie's darker than Batman. Some people say it's lighter. And I can see what they mean by it being lighter, is that it's much more like a typical sequel would, where it just like throws in more characters, has a little more cheesier lines and stuff like that. Like, so it's not as like dark. It's kind of hard to explain, but like I think I kind of see what I mean. But I think it is a much more darker film. Like a lot of the stuff with the Penguin is really like dark. And the scene at the end after he falls into the water and pops back up again, that's really like just gross and like pretty bloody, and the whole scene where he bites the guy's nose for no real reason. That is another random bloody part. Like I think it's much darker, especially like with all the like sexual stuff. Just makes it seem less like enjoyable. Like I don't know, less lighter. And like, this movie doesn't have a whole lot of rewatch value to it. Like, you watch it, like, oh, it's pretty good, not great, but good. Like, no. But I could put on an 89 film right now, and I'd be enjoying it. This one, not so much. Like, the ending leaves you the ending isn't the most triumphant ending. The ending of the first film, where you panning up the buildings to see Batman standing looking at the bat signal, perfect ending. But this ending, a little more kind of bittersweet, and I don't mind the ending that much, but it doesn't leave you like a triumphant feeling at all. You're kind of watching it and it's a little like down after watching the ending or stuff like that. So that was a little weird. I don't mind that part, but I know some people wouldn't have liked that. Like, especially back in 1992 and like coming out of the theater, you probably were not in the best of moods after seeing this movie. And I think that's about it. This movie is enjoyable, but not perfect. So, out of 10, I'd probably give it a 7.5. It's near there, but still doesn't reach. It has some really good moments, some well acted parts, not enough Batman screen time, and good action, but still not enough to really get it up there that high and say it's perfect. And, well, that's the Batman Returns review, and coming up next, the series goes way down. This is Justin. See you later.